Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you tonight to tonight's public work session of the Portsmouth City Council on March 10th, 2026. I want to acknowledge all of the citizens who are out in the audience, as well as our city staff who is here with us and our invited guests and visitors. Also want to take a moment to acknowledge those up on the dais who are on the city leadership team, starting out with Mr. Stephen Carter, our CEO, city manager, also interim city attorney, Mr. Derek Challenger, and tonight we have with us our deputy city clerk, Miss Anita. Good to see everybody. And with that, I will ask my colleagues who are here with us today to please note your presence electronically.
6 members of City Council are present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Carter, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Thank you
Good
for
evening.
being with us this evening. We have a few presentations for you this evening, starting with our Senior Services of Southwest Virginia, Ms. Kathleen Cullen, Mr. Steve Zolos. We'll start with that presentation. If you're ready, you can start making your way forward. Also, we have our city assessor. He's going to do the reassessment presentation for this year. And our final presentation on the CIP plan will be by Mr. James Wright, our city engineer this evening. But first up is the Senior Services of Southwest Virginia.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
good
And I know everybody up there, but my name is James Overton, and you appointed me to this board. And thanks for appointing a senior to the Senior Citizens Board. You know, I think I can offer a whole lot being a senior now. But anyway, we're here to do a presentation, and Steve is going to represent us with his presentation. And I hope you take it all in and, you know, consider what he has to say. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, I haven't
Overton.
done this in a long time. You know, it feels good to be back up here, you know, talking to you guys. Thanks a lot.
Well, it's good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I am Steve Zolas. I'm the CEO of Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia. I want to thank you for having me here today to let you know what's going on in the city of Portsmouth as it relates to the older adults, 60 plus, that we see, the veterans that we serve as well, and those with disabilities are all folks that we serve. I want to especially thank you for appointing James to our board and for Kathleen being an essential part of our board as well. So, as you can see, I'm going to talk a little bit about the solutions for a changing landscape because things have really changed. And part of my job is to make sure our communities understand what's changing and why perhaps we should have a little bit different thinking now. If I can get this to turn. Okay. This is going to be a long presentation. Do I need to? Thank you. What's that? Not yet. There's no on-off switch on this, right? Missing something? Okay, well, let me just talk to you about this.
That's fine.
Are you able to turn the slides if I ask you? Okay, you can go to the next slide if that'll work. Perfect. Just to start, to let you know that 1 in 4 residents of Portsmouth are 60 years old and older. That's a change. that we're going to look at a little bit more closely. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. You can see here already, it says by 2030, but certainly already the folks age 60 plus have exceeded those under the age of 18. First time in history in our community, certainly first time for our state as well. This is a significant adjustment that's going on, a change in our thinking. You can go to the next one. The demographers tell us that this shift is not temporary, but it's going to be long-term. Some people think, well, we have the baby boom, it's going to come, it's going to go. But because of the increasing longevity, changes in what is commonly called now exponential technology, the longevity and age is continuing to grow. And so we're expecting to see this on a long-term basis. And they say that this is the greatest challenge of this generation. On a statewide level, by 2030, it's expected that seniors will outpace those under the age of 18 by 200,000 people. You can go to the next slide. So that's what the demographers say. Who cares? They look at numbers, big deal. But what do we see around here in our community? Key indicators. First, we see the closing and consolidating of schools. We see reduction in youth programs, reduced demand for pediatrics, and smaller kindergarten classes, which tell us what they're seeing is a reduction in under 18. And go to the next slide. And what do we see as Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia? We see first growing elder hunger. We have the demand for more home-delivered meals than ever. In fact, we have a waiting list. We see increasing elder homelessness. We understand that older adults cannot live on the street. However, they're the fastest segment of the homeless population, which is just unacceptable. Limited access to services. We provide transportation. You've probably seen the iRide buses throughout the town. We have a van that's strictly committed to dialysis patients and those going to chemotherapy. And then finally, we see a strain on family caregivers. Without the family caregivers, we'd all be in a lot of trouble. We do a lot to support our caregivers as well. Next slide. So what happens when you have a lack of support for your older adult community? More calls for emergency responders. You have increased homelessness, as we've talked about. We have more acute hospitalizations, higher utilization of nursing homes, and a loss of income for family caregivers. Next. So here's what we've done in the city of Portsmouth in 2025. We provided over 4,000 free rides to medical appointments, to the grocery stores, to the key places that older adults who have limited access to transportation can get to. They just call us, we schedule them, we pick them up from the home, we take them to where they're going, and then we pick them up and bring them back home. All of our vehicles are ADA compliant. We have lifts so that folks in wheelchairs can get in, folks in walkers can get in comfortably as well. We answered from the city of Portsmouth 643 calls for people who just needed to find out, I'm in trouble, I don't know what to do, how do I deal with this problem, this situation? And we field those calls as well. Over 5,000 hours of companionship. We actually have what we call the Senior Companion Program, where we team older adults who are more mobile, more active with folks who might have some kind of limitations. We match them to, based on friendship, what they like to do. So if someone likes to shop and they can't get around, we match them with someone who likes to shop and can get around. They build friendships and they become very close, and it battles social isolation in the most direct way possible. Over 300 hours of affordable in-home care. 800 wellness sessions that were attended. We do a lot with the senior station here in Portsmouth. Over 12,000 home-delivered meals just in 2025 right here in Portsmouth. And then we also do the senior center meals with over 5,600 meals served there. And then a lot of folks here, we do Medicare benefits counseling. They think, oh, it's just a gimme. There is so much demand for an unbiased, non-sales Medicare counseling that by the time we get halfway through open enrollment, we have to close and say we can't take anymore, and we have to send them just to Medicare site to try and figure it out themselves. It's of high demand, and we did over 131 folks here in Portsmouth this year, helping them navigate the benefits that they've earned throughout their life to get what they need today. Next slide. So we like to tell a story every now and again just to bring home, the importance of what we do. This is a person who attends our senior center. We call them the Better Together cafes. Whenever we can get somebody out and about instead of getting a meal at home, where they can get companionship, they can get physical fitness, they can get social activities, make a friend, we try and do that. Desi is one of those people, and I'll just walk through this. She was born and raised in Portsmouth, worked since 1977 at the Naval Medical Center. Now she's 69 and she cares for her 91-year-old parents who require an increased amount of time. So she's a caregiver. And she started attending the Portsmouth Better Together Cafe to take care of herself through their nutrition and wellness program housed at the senior station. And she enjoys the camaraderie, she enjoys bingo size, exercise programming, and the education classes that we provide there. Desi says, I love it. It's a chance to move, have fun, and play bingo. And you know how we seniors love bingo. So just a quick testimony for you for one person who's been affected right here in Portsmouth. So this is where the rubber really meets the road. When we look at the support for 18 and under, or under 18 per capita, here in the city of Portsmouth, approximately $3,740 per person in support. When we look at the support for seniors, $206 per capita. And we look at that and we say, what's happening is we're not seeing the changing demographics, which is why I wanted to present that up front and be able to say, I think we need to consider, do our older adults need greater financial support from our jurisdictions? And what we're suggesting is eventually to get to an equity floor of 20%. So if you're supporting per capita children for $10,000 per capita, then $2,000 per capita would be set aside for seniors. And then we think that we're not looking to go, hey, let's be equal. We need to keep our schools, we need to keep our youth fully active. But we think a 20% equity floor is appropriate. We're not asking for that at this point in time. Our request this year is for $75,000. That's $3.52 per capita, or 6% equity. So we're asking to move up to 6%, not to 20%, and then be able to look in detail each year and be able to say, is it possible this year to do a little bit more on behalf of our older adults? Go to the next slide. So the total ask of $75,000, $42,500 would go to direct program costs, which I've described some of those to you today. $25,000 would go to our senior emergency fund, where we help folks if they don't have heat in the winter, if they don't have air conditioning in the summer, and other emergencies like that, where there's actually a risk of life. We apply those dollars in that way. And then $7,500 for operations support, finance, admin, the staff to help do these things. So I appreciate, there you go. I appreciate the time to come and present to you, give you some numbers, things to think about, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions you have about the senior population or what we're doing here in Portsmouth.
Councilman Dodson, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm one of your people. Thank you very much. I'm not sure it was you guys, but I had to go through the Medicare program this year, and it is horribly confusing, even for one of us that has at least a quarter of our wits
Yes.
about us. That quarter may be debatable among the rest of the council, but I'll claim it.
Can I ask how you got help? How was the help you received?
I'm not sure whether it was you guys or one of the other agencies that went, but I experienced the same thing as halfway through the cycle, the doors closed this year.
Yeah.
And I was very disappointed. I was like, well, how is everybody going to get help?
Yeah.
It was very disappointing to see that it might have been you guys that helped me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
One of the things that I proposed to this council last month was a Human Rights Commission. And the groups that you serve are the ones that I'm targeting. I'm not sure whether it's an idea that we're going to explore further, but I would love to sit down with you and see the needs, explore something like this in a group that advises us here. Would y'all fit into that, because we're targeting the same groups here?
Yeah,
So can we schedule a session?
Yes.
After to see, I don't want to push this Human Rights Commission through. I just want to see if there's a fit or feasibility for it. And your counseling would help.
Yeah, I would be glad to represent myself for our organization, but I would come to that and represent our organization and the seniors of Portsmouth so that there's a clear picture.
Well, not just the seniors, the disability,
And the vets.
there's a slew of groups out there
Perfect.
that we're trying to
Okay.
see if they need representation,
Yes, sir.
or what the services we have can adequately cover that. But yes, please schedule with me.
Okay, I'll do that.
Councilman Tillage, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, do you currently participate with Portsmouth United to receive grant funding?
I don't think we do.
Okay. If we could connect them with Portsmouth United, I think that would be a good start, because the slide that you presented that shows the per capita for the youth versus per capita for seniors, that's alarming to me. I'm fully believe in investing in our kids as much as we can, but we cannot forget about our seniors. And so if we could see there's some ways that we could partner with Portsmouth United to see how we could provide more assistance to our seniors, especially seniors that are experiencing fixed incomes, on top of now trying to decide if they're going to get medication or food, on top of housing. So, Mr. Carter, if we could connect them or see if that's a possibility.
Absolutely.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for the connection. I appreciate that.
Councilwoman Thomas, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you. And although I wasn't present physically, I was able to hear thanks to the beauty of technology. So thank you for the presentation. I heard you say that you've had to turn away because of the wait list, the Medicaid, I guess, consulting, you've had to turn some of that away. Have you had to turn away services for some of the other services you offer due to wait list or just demand for it as well?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways, and we're seeing demand across the board.
Okay.
So we have a wait list for meals, and our home delivered meals are to homebound older adults. They have to qualify to get the meals, which means there's not a caregiver there for them. They can't get out to the store, so they're really relying on this. And right now we deliver 5 meals a day, 5 meals a week. We really have a goal of getting to 7 meals. Everybody should eat every day. But even now at 5 meals, we have a waiting list, and we're always looking and trying to figure out how do we level that out. Same thing with transportation. We don't have a waiting list, but what happens is it gets to be you have to schedule 2 and 3 weeks out, and there's some things that are just you need demand right now. And when it gets too far out, we start losing folks that need the ride that can't get to their medical appointments or things like that. So that's another example of not a wait list, but people
Demand.
not being able to be served.
Okay, and then my follow-up also, Councilman Tillage mentioned a partnership with Portsmouth United. Do you also partner with our Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority, PRHA? They have a number of senior housing developments that have been recently developed, large population. I'm sure some of those folks meet the need. Do you partner with PRHA in terms of identifying some of the possible need or using some of their facilities or whatever, how you do a senior station? I think that's a great.
Yeah, so, mostly for that, we would partner with our I-Ride transportation to make
Okay.
sure we're serving those communities. But we're certainly, there are senior apartments and things like that that we have more detailed partnerships with, and we can certainly do that. And I will tell you, Portsmouth is one of our targets for this coming year to be able to say, what can we do more in Portsmouth? I'll tell you, it's our primary target. We serve other populations on the other side of the water as well as west of here. But we're going through our strategic planning right now, and Portsmouth is our primary.
Okay. I think that would be a great connect. I know, like you said, you're doing it through your transportation, but they also have a great viewpoint of the senior need and senior population, just due to some of the senior housing they are trying to meet the need for as well in Portsmouth. So thank you for this. I think this is definitely necessary, especially with the ratio of 60-plus-year-olds, my parents being some of them. So I really appreciate this presentation. Thank you.
And if you have a particular contact that you think
I
I
do.
should make, please get that to me.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Hugel, sir, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Mr. Zolius, for the brief. I just want to pile on to what Councilman Tillage said regarding connecting to Portsmouth United. One of the benefits of connecting into that group, we're depending on Portsmouth United to integrate the efforts of a lot of nonprofit work. And there are a bunch of nonprofits that are out doing similar things to some of the things that you offer. And so particularly as you're trying to figure out where more help can come to Portsmouth, it won't do us any good if you decide, well, we want to provide more of something when we already have somebody plugged into Portsmouth United that's already providing that service.
Yeah.
And they have a good insight into what's available and what's not available, so that as you're making your decisions, you can engage with them to figure out what does help look like for the community, because nobody else is out doing some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Part of our goal is to partner with everybody that we can. That's logical, because we can't keep up, and we recognize that. So even with, for example, our meals, if there's a local Meals on Wheels, we usually provide the meals. If they can provide the transportation, it's a great example of a partnership where we can help them thrive and meet the needs by, our financial assistance as well as our vans and things.
Yeah, and so I get it, and the challenge to a lot of folks like you is there's all this stuff going on, and you don't necessarily know all the stuff that's going on. The benefit that we have is Portsmouth United knows a lot about the stuff that's going on, and also has pretty good insight into the where the needs are not being met, and may be able to work with you to help plug some of those gaps. So I appreciate your work, and I want to encourage you to engage with Portsmouth United.
I will certainly do that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bryant, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Zolos. Very interesting presentation. Thank you for sharing with us. The conversation tonight has me wondering if you all ever partner with youth in any ways. One thing that we are trying to do with our youth population is keep them very active and engaged, and it seems that there might be an opportunity here for an overlap. Is that something you've done in any other localities?
Yeah, for sure. Intergenerational programming is really key for us. An example would be in the city of Franklin, we did a historic renovation of a school, turned it into 28 senior apartments, a community center, and a medical clinic, and a community garden. And there's a elementary school just on the other side of our field. And so we partner with them and the residents to come out and do the gardening there, as an example. There were also murals in the facility that we partnered to be able to redo those murals. Any way that we can partner with the youth as well as the teachers when we can, we want to do.
Okay, yeah, I think that's an absolutely wonderful opportunity and would really suit our city well. And so if you're making Portsmouth one of your targets for next year, I would love to hear more about that. That's a great
Excellent.
opportunity. Thank you.
Sure.
Vice Mayor Moody, sir, you have the floor.
The real senior will now speak on this council. Thanks for the presentation. So when you deliver the meals to the homes, you provide the transportation, right?
In some instances, we provide the transportation, but like I said, we like to partner. So if there's a local group that's trying to serve that purpose, we will try to empower them and team up with them in order to make sure everybody gets meals that's needed.
And the reason why I ask that question, at one time, I know our sheriff's department distributed meals to seniors at home. So you might reach out. I know a few years ago they had some deputies that did that during the day. So it might be worthwhile to look into that again. And did I also hear you correctly saying you only deliver 5 meals?
Five meals, one a day, 5 days a week.
So there's 2 days of the week where seniors aren't getting food from
Right.
your organization. What would it take to close that gap money-wise?
Oh,
And you don't have to share that right now, but I think it'd be good if you get back with council on what that cost would be.
Okay.
Because I don't think anyone should go lacking. 5 meals is great, but speaking for myself, I don't know that I could make it without the other 2 meals a week. But it'd be good to put a figure to that and see what that would take.
yeah.
Above all, people, seniors should not be missing 2 days out of the week with food, so,
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'll have those numbers for you tomorrow.
okay, thanks.
Mr. Zolos, a couple of questions for you. First of all, are you connected with Mercy Chefs? Do you have a relationship with them?
We've worked with Mercy Chefs, especially during COVID. We partnered with them in order to provide the influx of meals over COVID that we needed. So I do have the relationship with them.
Good.
We're not using them right now for our meals, but that's a possibility for us to expand.
Correct.
And we do, we have meal providers. We have maybe, I think, 5 now. We try and move them because there's safety involved in delivering meals. They have to stay a certain temperature. They have to be delivered by hand to the hand of the recipient, things like that. But we are constantly looking for additional, especially if we move to 7 meals a day. We would probably team up with Mercy Chefs and say, how can we do this?
Sure, because I know I've spoken to Gary and his team.
Yep.
They're very much engaged in helping to cover those kinds of gaps. So that's a great resource, as you know. The other thing is, where do you all get your primary funding from?
Our primary funding comes through the Older Americans Act, which comes through the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services.
Okay.
And then the dollars that they get are distributed to all the area agencies on aging across the state.
Correct.
I will tell you, I'm not battling them. I have a really good relationship with DARS. But we're the largest AAA. We serve more elderly in poverty, more elderly minorities than any other area agency. We get about $18 per capita. Other agencies get up to $40 per capita. And so they have a formula they use for the distribution.
Okay.
And believe me, I'm ringing the bell saying we need to change this formula because we're not getting our share down here.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
The other question I have, we have a couple of foundations in the city of Portsmouth. The Portsmouth General Hospital Foundation, are you aware of that foundation?
I'm good friends with Alan, yes.
Okay, very good. Also, we have the Beasley Foundation. Are you good friends with Steve and Bess, too?
I am not yet.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that you become good friends with Stephen Bass.
Very good.
Okay,
I
because
look
the
forward
Beasley
to that.
Foundation, as you know, is headquartered here in the city of Portsmouth,
Mm-hmm.
and I know my good friend Stephen Best would like to meet you.
Very good. I look forward to the connection. Thank you.
We'll make that happen for you, okay?
All right.
Any other questions from my colleagues for Mr. Zolas? Thank you, sir, and as I said, before you leave, I'd like to make sure we make that connection, so
Very good. Thank you all. I appreciate the time.
thank you very much. Mr. Carter, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Zolas. Mrs. Zolas, just before you sit, if you don't mind, there's a young lady just to your left. If you give her your contact information, she'll be able to make sure that you get in contact with some of these other agencies that we've talked about this evening. All right, thank you very much. All right, our city assessor, Mr. Steve Edwards, he is the next presentation for us this evening. He's going to talk about our reassessment for the current year. Mr. Edwards, the floor is yours, sir.
Is it going to work? Of course not. All right. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, fellow appointees, staff, and citizens. Tonight, we're going to talk about, is this thing, can you hear me?
Yeah, you might need to pull it up
Okay.
a little bit more to speak
There we
directly
go.
into it. There you go.
We're going to talk about the annual reassessment. And with your indulgence, if you don't mind, the first 6 slides are boilerplate you see every year. Vice Mayor Moody's probably seen them for the past 28 years. So if nobody has any questions on those, I'd like to go ahead and skip through those and save some time of let y'all listen to me read through those stumbling. All right, so we're going to go to slide 8. And Councilman Hugel, you will notice page numbers. And what our office does is the scope of work required for mass appraisal differs significantly from that of individual residential and commercial appraisals. Individual appraisals focus on a single property, while mass appraisal evaluates an entire universe of properties. Individual appraisals rely on property-specific adjustments. Mass appraisal applies statistical modeling across assessment neighborhoods to achieve uniform valuation. Individual appraisals are governed by USPAP, whereas mass appraisals are regulated by both USPAP and applicable state tax code requirements.
And sir, just for us folks that don't understand initials, what do they?
USPAP is the Uniform Standard of Professional Appraisal Practice.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's the appraisal Bible for us. We violate it, we lose our license. Sales used in mass appraisal are reviewed and validated in accordance with state tax code, which specifies conditions under which the sale may be deemed valid or invalid. And the state gives 20 reasons we go through to determine that the sale is not valid before we can say it is a valid sale and use it in the valuation. Now we're getting into some of the analytics we used. 9. And the first thing that comes into play is interest rates. And as you can see over the years, we've had interest rates as low as 2.96 during the COVID years, up to 2023 where it was back up to close to 7. At the end of 2025, it was down to 6.15. And the reason interest rates play such a role is they directly influence borrowing costs, buyer demand, and investor behavior. When interest rates are low, borrowing is cheap, which allows buyers to afford higher purchase prices for the same monthly payment. This typically increases demand for residential and commercial properties, putting upward pressure on property values and encouraging new development. Low rates also make real estate more attractive to investors, further supporting price growth. And another factor that comes into play is days on market. And we have, as you can see, our days on market are starting to tick back up, but they're still below 1 month. And what the days on market refers to how quickly a property sells after being listed. And it also, when it's this low, it reflects that it's still a seller's market, not a buyer's market. And it indicates stronger buyer demand, limited supply, and a competitive market where properties often receive multiple offers. Low days on the market is commonly associated with upward pressure on prices, reducing negotiating leverage for buyers and making it overall healthy market conditions. The next slide number 11, it just shows that the 7 cities and their days on the market, and shows that we're right in line with just about everybody else, with the exception of Virginia Beach, which has an absurdly low 15 days. And then our next slide will be the total transfers per year. Total transfers is basically the number of property transfers in a year. It includes sales and wills, deeds of gift, everything like that changes the ownership of a property. And we've remained steady since 2023, we're pretty much at a slow pace, creeping back up. It's be quite a while before we hit that high number we had in 2021. And then the next slide kind of shows the same information over the 7 cities, and we're not at the top, but we're definitely not at the bottom of the number of transfers. And the number of transfers does indicate that if they stay steady or they're constantly increasing, indicates a very healthy market, because we have a lot of properties that are moving. And then next slide, the foreclosures. We have our foreclosures have creeped way up. The 64 foreclosures, which these are the judicial foreclosures, where they actually go to court to take the property back. We also had 76 non-judicial foreclosures, which are where the lender uses the power of sale clause in the deed of trust to force the sale without going through the court process. And we had 2 deeds in lieu of foreclosure, which is where the people give it back prior to it going into foreclosure. Next slide. And then our median sales prices are continuing to tick up. We went from basically $275 last year to $282 this year is the median price house you can buy in the city of Portsmouth. And then throughout the city or the area, we're still the lowest median price of all the area of any of the 7 cities. And then you throw in the coast in York County just to see what goes. Some really off the chart pricing, but we're still we're still the lowest one. And if you look at the tax rate of other cities and the tax rate of ours, I know everybody says it's high, but if you look at their median house with their tax rate and ours, we're still paying less.
Yes. That's right.
And the next slide is just the last 3 years final land books as of July 1st. That shows almost $1 billion increase in overall assessments in that time frame. And then this is just kind of a breakdown to show what we have in the city. We have 1,699 condos with a median price of $195,720, 430 duplexes with a median price of $218,425, 27,235 single-family dwellings with a median price of $250,170, townhouses median assessments, I'm sorry, not median price. The townhouses, 2078 with a median assessment of $188,960, and then 37 triplexes with $247,360 median assessment. And in addition to that, we also have 11,040 apartment units in various multifamily buildings and many more on the horizon. And then the next slide just gives a breakdown of our housing stock, and you can see that basically 75% of our housing stock was built from prior to 1979. And it just gives you the overall median assessment of each range of housing price, from everything built prior to 1900 through up until the new construction that we put on a couple months ago. And then there'll be several pages of just specific neighborhood increases that if you have any questions about those, I'll be happy to answer. And we'll get through and just pie chart on page 25 is just basically telling you the percentage we have of each property in these different ranges of, or different value ranges. And you can see basically from 150 to 300,000 is the majority of the properties. This is single-family townhouses and condos within the city. And then I think the final slide for residential, this gives you the breakdown of the fact that we had 47 properties decrease, and I was looking at those. Most of those were demolitions. We had 2,131 properties that had no change this year. 16,951 properties went up between 0.1% and 3%. 8,049 properties went up between 3 and 5%. 5,028 went up between 5.1 and 10%. 543 went up over 10%, and 567 went up over 15%. And then the next few slides we're going to get into are the commercial property classes and how much they increased. And we had some significant increases in those this year, as we actually were able to have our commercial staff fully staffed for once, and we got everybody out and they were looking at different various property classes, and we were able to put tapes on properties and get them measured and revalued. And then overall commercial, slide 30. Commercial within the city is 49%, which would be general commercial, which is your convenience stores, fast food restaurants, offices. 26% multifamily, which is your apartments, and 25% industrial, which is your warehouses and any industrial processing or manufacturing facilities, mini storage, things like that. And then the next slide just shows the three commercial categories broken down and how they've increased over time. And then there's a pie chart that also, like the residential, gives you how much of our commercials valued at certain ranges and the percentage of those properties. Excuse me. And then for the commercial breakdown, we had 52 properties decrease, 654 that didn't have a change, 1,510 that were between 0.1 and 10%, 119 that went up between 10 and 15, and 117 that went up over 15%. And now we get to the good stuff. On page 34, we had a total of 33,316 residential properties spread out over 210 neighborhoods, and 2,451 commercial properties in 7 commercial districts. Of that, only 0.14% of the residential properties decreased, 93.46% of the residential properties increased, and 6% stayed the same, giving the residential value property increase of 4.42% overall, and our commercial increased by 10.1% overall. And you can see on the slide 35 that the overall proposed land book is going to increase from 10.8 billion to 11.5 billion, which is a total increase of 6%, or $653,492,900, or $653,492,963. And if the tax rate were to stay the same, that's 8.1 million. And then the next slide is just the State Corporation Commission and the State Department of Taxation tax certain things within the city that we don't, like the railroads and communication towers and things like that, and public utilities. And last year, this is the totals that they provided and the corresponding levies that came with it. From the SEC, we got an additional 1.49 million, and from the rolling stock railroads that the State Department of Taxation completes, we got another 273,000. And then we get some additional information that for programs that we don't administer, but we have a hand in. 37. The Disabled Veterans Program, which is run by the Commissioner of Revenue's office, as of 3/5, we had processed, in the time frame it's been going on, we currently have 1,390 recipients in the program that is an assessed value of $443,865,880 from the and that's 3.9% of the proposed land book, which equates to $5,149,632 in annual exonerations. We're getting roughly 10 a week, if not more. We're still working on the ones from February, and we have at least 30 in our office that haven't been processed and added to this number yet. The senior citizens tax relief actually went down a little bit this year. That's at $108,887,100, and the tax freeze was $66,361,110. And there's a bar chart that kind of shows on slide 38 how those have fared. The tax relief dropped from 124 to 108. The tax freeze went up a little bit, and the Disabled Veterans Program went up quite a bit. And then our non-taxable properties have also increased this year, with the biggest being the United States government at $4.1 billion. And I think we have a pie chart on the next page that kind of shows that the taxable to non-taxable value overall, 67% of our value is taxed, 33% is not, but land mass, 42% is not taxable and 58% is. So overall, 42% of the land in the city of Portsmouth we receive zero for, and that's excluding the programs I just mentioned prior. And then on to the next steps. The assessment notices will be mailed out, fingers crossed, Friday. Might be Saturday, but hopefully Friday. And the informal hearings will start March 16th through March 27th during 9 to 4 in our office. And you can also, we have to have your application in by 5 p.m. on the 27th for your informal hearing. The Board of Equalization applications will be accepted through April 24th. And during all this, our staff will still be out working the new construction and their building permits for the fourth quarter. And once all that's completed, we will generate our land book as of July 1st, 2026. And looking forward for some things we've got coming. We've got quite a few developments coming. Some of you may have seen over by Chick-fil-A, we have 7 Cities Coffee. The foundation is in on that right now. We've got, y'all just passed our approved Blunt Point Apartments on Victory Boulevard and Newport. I think Phase 3 is what they were calling it, over in the old Academy Park, where that's going to be like 492 residential. And there's, I haven't heard or seen, but I know there was apartments coming to the old Kroger site. You have 2 transload facilities, one on Virginia Avenue, which is currently under construction, and the one on Harper, which I think is in the planning stages. The Kings Landing townhouses in the Link District, which I was just informed today are going to have about a $500,000 asking price. And then we've got some multi-million-dollar renovation going on at 309 High Street. And then we also have the Crawford Bay and Municipal Center redevelopment on the horizon. And with that, I'll take questions.
When I look at the, I'm trying to find that sheet on the relative values of properties. Page 25, residential property value by range. National statistics point to the high end and the low end at about 14, if I remember right, 14% is the national average for high end and 14% for the low end. And when I look at our distribution, if I add those numbers up, we don't even have 1% in the high end distribution of homes.
Depends on your definition of high end.
According to the national statistics that I was reading, which would be over 600. paints a picture to me that we're a very poor real estate city. And I think we talked about this last year, that I was hoping we could get some comparison of that to the national averages, so that we could, when we talk to development and zoning and things that we might want to look at in the city, to get us in a better financial balance to where we can support some of the social programs. We haven't, trying to support the poor by taxing the poor is not a good thing to do. We desperately need money. On page 15 also, I hear a lot of people complain about the property values going up. Is it rule of 7? Am I correct with finances when I say rule of 7 that predicts the inflationary price of things going up? That it's about a 10-year double in the price? And if I look at this chart, I think that exactly gives me, we are on a normal inflation progress in there from 2015 to 2025. Shows about doubling the prices in 10 years, which is a normal inflation. And I get a lot of people complaining that my assessment's gone up so much, I can't afford it. And I'm like, but it's within.
I think the issue is not so much that it went up so much they can't afford it. It's they have escrow accounts, which if you don't call them and say, hey, my assessment went up $100, then your escrow is going to go up $400 because they're going to play catch up.
Yeah.
Because it just did it to me.
Yeah, so I hear those complaints, but your numbers reflect that we are in the normal inflation path here of where we should be. On page number 30, it brings up the question of these commercial, industrial, multifamily units. So, Mr. Carter is trying to get our employees in the departments to report to other departments where they see things that are out of line. When they see code violations, they report it to the other. Are we in your department also observing things and reporting them when we see violations? The reason I bring it up is that I was aware of a trailer park that went and installed a whole new section on what was supposed to be a retention plan. They filled it in and started developing it without permits. And I was wondering if y'all see that.
We haven't heard about that one yet, but generally, if we see something going up without permits, we contact them, and if they see something, they contact us.
Good. I wanted to make sure we were all kind of on the same page there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Hugo, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the brief, as always. Several questions. So page 26, we had quite a few properties that increased significantly. Okay, 5,000 in the 5 to 10% range, and several hundred even more than that. What are the typical drivers for those kind of increases? Were they things we hadn't visited in a while,
Yes.
or?
We've been, as I told you last year during my evaluation, I was going to get people back out on the street, and that's what we've been doing. We've had people back on the street, and we've seen a lot of these neighborhoods that hadn't had anybody to them in years, some of them 5, 6 years. Back prior to COVID, might have been the last time they were seen. So we got out and may not have hit all of them we wanted to yet, but we've hit quite a few and found a lot of things.
Okay. By finding a lot of things, are you saying you found a lot of improvements that have been made that you weren't alerted to
And
through
there
the
were some
permitting
things
process?
some of them we've tracked back, and there were permits. It was just during COVID, and we don't know if during
Okay.
COVID there was people weren't in the building, so sometimes permits weren't getting to us, or they were getting down there and getting sat on a desk, and then.
But we do have a process so that if a permit is issued, you all get notified so
Yes.
that you can
Yeah, we get our
go inspect.
Yeah, everything.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, right now everything's working like it normally should.
Okay. On page 33, so 26% of our commercial properties had no change in value compared to 6.4% of our residential properties that had no change in value. Did the commercial properties have no change because we didn't visit them? Or really,
No,
they weren't hit by inflation?
They were, when we looked at everything and did our analysis on them, they were in line.
Okay. Page 34, the next page then,
And,
So-
and to caveat that, some of them,
Yep.
yes, some of them we haven't gotten to yet, but a lot, I
Okay.
mean, there's several classes I know of that we looked at, and they were in line with what the market sales were showing, and
and would you say we're caught up on commercial, we're catching up on commercial?
I would say we're catching. We're not caught. We're on the right path.
Okay. Can you give us a guesstimate of when you feel we'll be caught up? This coming year or 2 years?
Well,
Or
right now, the plan I have in place is the IAAO standard, which is to get it all looked at in a 6-year period.
Okay.
Hopefully, I'm standing here in 6 years telling you it's done, and we're starting over again.
Okay. Page 34, so the increase on residential is 4.42%,
Yes.
but back on page 16, the increase in sales price is only 2.6%. So why are we seeing a higher increase on our assessments than we're seeing in
'Cause
increase in sales price?
The sales price, we were not at 100% of sales price, so we have to, so they're not catching, or they were not moving at the same pace. So we're trying, right, we were at, I think, 94% last year.
Okay.
When it was all said and done, and the state gave us our report card.
Okay. On page 14, your foreclosure report, can you remind us which foreclosures you count and which you do not count?
Judicial ones are the ones that I counted.
Okay. And then finally, on page 39, the value of federal government property is estimated at $4.2 billion. That's, looks like the same number as a year ago. Do you all
I think
do
it went
get-
up a little bit. It didn't go up much.
And you don't do that assessment, you get that assessment
We,
information
we,
provided
we
to
did
you,
this
or-
year. Usually they'd have it, but our contact is no longer there. So
Okay.
we finally got a new contact, but it was after I got this done. So we just ran it on our models and ran the cost on it, and it went up slightly.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Thomas, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for the presentation. Actually, I had another question, but Councilman Hugel brought up a great point here regarding the difference between the residential increase and the commercial increase on that slide 26 versus 33. And I know, I think I just heard you say the reason for the difference in the no change between the residential, which in the commercials, because you haven't caught up yet on the commercial property reassessments yet. Is that correct?
Sorry, I didn't.
You said you haven't caught up on the commercial property reassessments, and that's the,
No, we're not caught up. We're currently working on them, but we reviewed some of those, and they were in line with the market, and some of those we haven't actually seen yet. So it's kind of a little mixed bag of both.
okay. I guess my only concern here is, as we're playing catch-up, is just the hit on the residents in terms of their, like you were just talking about, the escrow and increase in the mortgages or whatever they pay. That's, as we're paying catch-up, that's a big hit within a year, larger than some of our commercial property owners. So to me, I would be concerned as a residential owner versus a commercial owner that I'm getting hit sooner than a commercial property owner here. So that's one concern that Councilman Hugel's question kind of brought to mind. But my question that I was originally going to ask is regarding page 27. It was starting on page 27. Let me turn to that. Oh, the percent change by commercial property class. So pages 27 through 29. And so, I'm looking at some of the larger increases here, like, so for hotel, I see 105.2%. Is that due to the new hotel that's coming? Like,
No,
what are
this is-
these
we-
jumps due to?
My appraisers actually went out and put tapes on them, remeasured them, and then got information and revalued them.
Okay. And same for like something like convenience store, not as high as that, but like, is that the
That
same
was,
type of?
convenience stores were also They went to all the convenience stores this year and spoke to a lot of their proprietors and pulled tapes on them and got
Okay.
information of things that we didn't have and picked up a lot of information.
Okay, and trailer parking, it's funny, Councilman Dotson had mentioned the trailer park issue. Is that the same reason, like there was some changes in some trailer park, commercial properties?
Actually, it was a second trailer park that was not called a trailer park this year, or in prior years, it was under a non-class code.
Okay.
And we found out it was a trailer park, so when we picked it up and revalued it as a trailer park, and it
Okay.
generated a pretty big increase on it.
In terms of just, I guess, how your department is moving to better get notified of when these changes occur, can you explain that to me a bit more?
You mean
How
for,
that-
like, permits
how we're-
or-
Yeah, is it
Alright.
just you get notified through the
Yeah,
permits and?
when the permitting department sends us down permits monthly, and then
Mm-hmm.
they can get distributed to the appraisers, and the appraisers go out and start looking at the properties, and then taking notes of what's there, and then whether they need to come back, or if the work's done, and then,
Okay.
and they
So-
usually,
So once we get caught up, I don't want to say caught up, but once we kind of get back on track with the assessments of our commercial properties, it sounds like we're back on track with the residential. Can you say that that our homeowners and commercial property owners shouldn't expect these like larger increases in the
I'd like to
future?
say never, but
Okay.
you can't rule anything out.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of get a better idea of what our homeowners can
I think,
expect.
I think
Okay.
a lot of the big spikes are probably finally caught and hopefully
Okay.
put to bed for once.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I think a lot of the people, because we caught a few last year, and some of the calls we got were, well, you got me. I've gotten away with it for all these years, I guess I can't complain. So
Okay.
other ones did, and then, like most people in the city, they're a personal friend of the mayor, and they're gonna call him, and he's gonna take care of it.
Thank you. I don't know if you heard that. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Getting back to the commercial side of it, most of my colleagues have answered or asked most of those questions. But I got two pertaining to the method that you use to evaluate income-producing commercial properties. There's an income method and also a property value method. I take it, you mentioned you got the tape measure out and measured some of the convenience stores. How do we know that that's a fair method?
What we do is, well, we value by all three methods. There's the sales comparison approach, the cost approach, and the income approach. Some of them may not be applicable to a particular property, so, but we don't rule them out until we rule them out. So if we have income information on the property, and it's a property that's typically transferred based off of income, that's the best valuation method. That's what we're going to use. If it's a property type that's done on sale, like apartments are done based off of income, whatever they generate is what they're going to sell for, based off of a cap rate and cost and expenses.
So you're comparing the two methods, the
Yeah,
income versus the property value?
Yes, we always do the cost approach, but if it's not the best method to use and there's a better method, we're going to use the best method.
How do you get the income?
Income, we send out letters every year asking for income and expense, and we get it, and then there's publications you can also get that may not have the exact income for somebody, but it'll give you the industry standards for like a Class A apartment or industrial building or a warehouse or something like that.
So you send those out, what percentage do you get back?
Last year, we got back 33%. This year, we only got back around 26 or 27%. And that was last year. I think we called around, and everybody had a great year last year. Everybody got about the same and gave me the same answer. It's the best year we've ever had. I don't know what last year was, but this year was back to the norm because norm is around 25%. We were still above that, but not.
So we're leaving, that really erodes the
Well-
income
And, well, and it's hard to say, 'cause we're doing 25% of all the properties I sent them to. Not all of them are income-producing properties, so we have to take that into account, too. Of the income-producing properties, if you just pulled those, it's probably a higher percentage, but we send them out to, I think it was like 2,000 properties. And not all of them, some of them come back and they're just marked owner-occupied. Well, then they're not, it's not considered an income-producing property.
Right. Instead of relying on the mail method, sending it back, couldn't you get that information here? I mean, restaurants pay meal tax, sales tax.
Unfortunately, the commissioner is not allowed to share that with us.
By Virginia law?
Correct.
Okay, they can't share that.
No, it would make my life a lot easier.
Well, it would not only make it easier, it would be a more fair method.
Yeah, if you guys want to get them to lobby the legislation for that, I would happily get on board with that.
Because I've stated before that I thought the residential piece is carrying the load in our city. And getting back to the commercial, even though there were some increases in the evaluation of that, or valuation of that, what percentage were actually physically assessed?
All of them were
Physically.
physically assessed, but.
So your assessors visited every?
Oh, no, I mean, we can't visit everything in 1 year. We've done around 400 site inspections where they get out and pull the tape, and probably driven by everything, but.
And I ask this question every year, too. Do you have enough commercial assessors to be able to get the job done?
We have one, two, I'm gonna say 2.5, because I got one who's split halfway between residential and half commercial. And then I have Mr. Hines, who we've had for about 3 years. Unfortunately, Mr. Hines is retiring at the end of this year, so, but I have somebody ready to step into his place. But that's gonna open me up for more residential and I'm having a hard time hiring like everybody else, trying to find somebody qualified.
So we're still understaffed in being able to do assessments for our commercial property.
Well, commercial, I think the 3 we have, or 2.5 we have, is fine for our parcel count. It's, once I can get the one that's doing half residential, half commercial, to full-time commercial, then I'll have 3 commercial appraisers, and that'll put me at the IAAO standard for the number of parcels each one should have. And then it'll be a lot quicker looking at things and getting everything reviewed and looked at. I'm struggling right now finding residential appraisers. I've got 7 interviews to schedule from the last ad we had. Unfortunately, I have those 7, only maybe 2 of them were really somewhat qualified.
Well, it sounds like we have a ways to go.
Yeah, and every city has an advertisement out right now, and we're all fighting for the same group
Right.
of people.
But there's got to be a better method on getting the income statements back from the commercial properties. I take it when you send those out, we rely totally on the voluntary method of them sending them back.
And then you've got quite a few who have tax reps who tell them, do not send them in. Well, if we don't like the assessment, then we'll provide it. So you're fighting that battle. It's kind of like having your attorney telling you not to talk.
Was anything in the code, Virginia State Code, that requires that to be sent back?
No. The only penalty they get is if they do not provide them during the informal or BOE, they cannot use it in court. So if their income would cause their assessment to be lowered and they show up in court and say, well, here's our income. Well, you didn't provide it prior to that, so you can't provide it now, and then they automatically lose.
Right. Well, just seems like there would be a better way in getting that information back.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can put that into your legislative packets to get them to let the commissioners give us the information, that would streamline a lot of things.
Well, maybe we can consider that when we put our next legislative package together. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
This sounds like an appropriate ask. Councilwoman Bryant, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Edwards. You are a wealth of information. We all have a pretty good understanding up here of the page 40 slide, which shows the area of taxable versus non-taxable land. But if you could explain that, I think it's helpful for citizens to know, especially given some of the discussion that we'll be having later this evening.
The 58 and 42 one?
Yeah.
58% of the city's land mass is taxable, 42% of the land mass is not. 42% of the land mass is local government, federal government, state, regional, churches, charities, I think, or whatever else is on that slide. Local, regional, state, U.S., church, hospitals, and educational. It counts for 42% of that, of the overall piece of Portsmouth.
And to go a step further, how does that compare to our neighbors? Just in general.
No one's close.
And so thank you for highlighting for us the looking forward 2026 and beyond, and showing some of the developments that we're moving forward with and why they're important to help us with that disparity.
Mr. Edwards, thank you for that update. But one of the things I want to caution, not caution, but, you know, we have to be careful about the words that we use on this dais. And I say that because we are not a poor city. As you understand, we are a working class, hardworking, proud city. And it's reflected in the home ownership in these numbers. In addition to that, we just were informed once again that almost 50% of our land we receive no tax revenue from. But yet we still maintain a community, and sure, we have a diverse housing stock, but we cannot use that kind of language when we're talking about our people. This is not a poor community. We are working towards improving our community and the access to greater resources through our economic development that we're doing in this city and new homes that are coming in this city. Let me be clear. Portsmouth was voted as the #1 place for first-time home buyers in the United States. So we're doing a lot of good things. And I want our citizens to know that we're going to continue to work hard to bring tax revenue into our city to make sure that we're helping those seniors and those residents and those young families to be able to afford homes in the city of Portsmouth. We need to be proud of that fact, and we need to support that effort as we go forward.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
and we see it, and you can see it with the numbers. They're still going up. So that's telling you that it's desirable.
Correct. Councilman Tillage, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also just want to point out on page 19, where it talks about the market data, and it shows that from the year 2020 to present, we have developed 846 parcels. And so that means we're on track to have developed more new housing in over 2 decades here in the city of Portsmouth since the 1990s. And so we are making good strides to achieving housing here in the city of Portsmouth. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
And so by the time we add the developments that you mentioned on your last slide, we would have hit over 1,200 by year end of 26. So that puts us literally more than over a decade, 2 decades.
Yeah, well, maybe a little longer than that for that big
Yeah.
492 might take a little bit longer. But
But it'll be
we'll
for
pushing it.
2030. Absolutely.
Yeah, by
Absolutely.
2030, we should probably surpass what we had in 2000, 2009 easily.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Carter, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Our next presenter is Mr. James Wright. Our city engineer will provide information on our 2026-2030 CIP plan. Mr. Wright, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Before you again to talk a bit about the CIP, I know you've seen me the past couple of weekends here, but I'm going to take a little bit of a different tone and go through some of the topics that you asked questions about in some of your previous presentations that I've given. So next slide. Next slide. So our CIP, when we're looking at our CIP, we ask a number of questions about each project, and the questions typically fall into these categories. So I'm going to use a pump station as an example. So a pump station ensures that sewage is safely converted to treatment facilities. If it fails, sewage backs up in the streets, waterways, and homes. It directly protects public health and the environment. Pump stations are subject to state and federal requirements. Failure to meet capacity, reliability, and redundancy standards can result in violations and fines. Many upgrades are mandated to maintain compliance. If a pump station fails, impacts may include sewer overflows, environmental pollution, service interruptions to entire neighborhoods or critical facilities, emergency repairs that cost far more than planned CIP work. A single failure can have system-wide impacts. As far as the operational budget, upgrades may reduce O&M costs by improving efficiency, reducing emergency call-outs, and lowering power consumption. Pump stations are also strong candidates for grants. Long-term cost savings of potential grants help strengthen the score when you're looking at pump station projects. Community impacts. A reliable pump station benefits thousands of residents by preventing backups and maintaining essential services. Environmental benefits include preventing sewage discharges, also promote and support community quality of life. And as far as strategic alignment, pump station upgrades support infrastructure resilience, environmental stewardship, neighborhood livability, and long-term system reliability. These align with City Council's vision principles. Next slide, please. We talked a bit in the past about how we do cost estimates. So, and looking at the cost estimates, the bigger or more complicated a project is, the more complex a project, the more it's going to cost. Price changes that we look at are based on construction demand and current economic conditions. Looking at materials and equipment availability, limited materials and equipment that are in limited supply or have long lead times can increase project costs. If you have a number of like projects going on at the same time, fewer available contractors often mean higher bids. And then just general market as inflation and future cost increases also must be built into estimates. To Councilman Hugan's question at that one retreat as to why our estimates were different from the estimates we received from the school board, because of these number of factors that we take into consideration. Next slide, please. So these are a couple of project terms that you might hear when we're discussing projects, or you might see in a report back or a note. And so just to give you some definitions on those project terms. So we're looking at scoping is what does that project need to include? The design, plans, drawings, and technical documents needed to build the project. Advertisement or bid, is the public advertisement so that contractors can submit bids. Appropriate city staff reviews that information, including those bids, and selects a contractor. The construction phase, it's the contractor that actually building the project according to those plans and specifications. This includes inspections and coordination with city staff. Notice to proceed, it's a communication to the contractor that it can begin the work. It starts the project's construction timeline. Mobilization, generally, is when the contractor brings equipment, crews, trailers, and materials to the site to prepare for construction activities. Closeout is final inspections, paperwork, punch lists, approvals are completed, and then the project's finished and turned over for whatever use that project may have. A couple of other things that you may hear, programming. So programming for a building is that early planning phase where you figure out what that building needs to contain, how big it should be, how the spaces should work together. It might include identifying what functions and services are going to be in the building, listing the rooms, spaces, and equipment that are needed, referred to as space needs, estimating how much square footage each space will require, understanding how those departments and other groups that are in that building should function and should function next to each other, and then documenting all those needs into a program that guides the design phase. A preliminary engineering report, or PER, is an early stage of a study that examines a problem, evaluates possible solutions, and then recommends the best option before the full design starts. You would typically identify project needs or deficiencies, evaluate different alternatives or design options, review environmental, permitting, and site constraints, provide cost estimates for each option, and then recommend the most feasible, cost-effective solution. Next slide, please. So, recurring CIP projects help the city shift from costly emergency repairs to planned maintenance because preventative work is cheaper and reduces service interruptions. So, I did this before we had the issues with City Hall, but my example is for HVAC. So, systemic HVAC evaluations allow for the early identification of equipment problems, which can prevent emergency breakdowns and costly repairs. These evaluations identify failing components, inefficiencies, ventilation problems, and units nearing the end of their useful service life. Findings from evaluations allow for the city to schedule replacements and repairs in a controlled, budgeted manner instead of reacting to sudden system failures. By treating HVAC evaluations as recurring CIP items, the city reduces unplanned downtime, minimizes service interruptions in public facilities, and improves overall safety and reliability for the building occupants. And you see a number of similar types of recurring CIP projects that we have throughout the portfolio in our CIP. This doesn't list them all, just a couple of the key ones. Next slide, please. Regulatory initiatives ensure that our drinking water system meets state and federal mandates. Dam upgrades for our drinking water reservoirs, which are complying with an unfunded mandate of improved safety and resiliency. The CIP also includes continued improvements to sanitary sewer pump stations to reduce overflows and maintain reliable service. On the community side, there are targeted investments across the city. Upgrades to traffic signal system improve both safety and traffic flow. The city also is investing in several neighborhood improvement projects and supports upgrades to the pavilion to enhance recreational and community gathering spaces. For economic development, the CIP continues to support the completion of the complete High Street Innovation Corridor in the Link District. This project is central to reactivating one of our core commercial corridors, and the Civic Center and jail demolition is currently in progress, clearing the way for future development and redevelopment opportunities. For facilities, we are investing in our public safety and institutional infrastructure, upgrades for multiple fire stations, new Craddock Fire Station, several public school projects are in the budget, funding for jail modification, juvenile detention improvements, and middle school classroom additions to meet capacity and program needs. And our large projects and city pillars capture major long-range investments that are targeted to help shape the public future. Next slide, please. So these are some of the larger CIP projects, the ones that are typically over $5 million, the ones we had to take a careful look at and to see how those funds would be distributed throughout the project lifetime. So the timing of CIP project funding is based on how long each phase or project is expected to take. Funding is also scheduled so that projects fit together without overloading staff and so the city stays within its debt limits. So for an example, I'm gonna go back to a pump station. So you have a sewer pump station. That project might take 4 years. Part of that project, that 4-year time frame, is to stay within your debt policy, but also to avoid stacking too many projects on top of your workload at once. So year one might find scoping and design, and you get the funds for that initial phase. Year 2, final design, bid preparation, permitting, and all those things that get you ready for construction. Year 3, you're ready to start construction, so you're advertising, going out for bid, getting that contractor in place. That's when you need that larger influx of funds so you can sign the contract and move on. The last year of that project is just basically you're under construction, you get to the end, you close it out, and you move on to the next project. Next slide, please. So similar to the projects in the general fund, enterprise fund have a number of projects that are also that are larger and have those similar triggers. However, these projects focus on regulatory compliance, flood control, and modernizing obsolete infrastructure. Here, we are prioritizing unfunded mandates, neighborhood flood release, and the renewal of end-of-life systems. Next slide, please. Portsmouth is facing several major mandated projects, each costing more than $100 million. These new mandates come on top of long-standing requirements to update our sanitary sewer system, which also exceeds $100 million. Large projects such as a City Hall relocation, public safety complex, K-8 school, and a sportsplex put significant pressure on the city's debt capacity, and because of this, the city must carefully plan when each project will move forward so that we can stay within our debt policy limits. The departments managing these major construction efforts must also balance this work with their other project responsibilities, all while keeping normal city operations running smoothly. As previously mentioned at the retreats, the city manager is working on project managers for several departments and also a program manager position for these larger scale projects. Next slide, please. So with everything that's going on, we've been tasked to develop a project dashboard. So we're developing this dashboard so we can give a clear, easy-to-read summary of each CIP project. This dashboard will display a short overview of what the project is and why it is being done, where the project's located, and what category it falls under, whether it's a utility, a facility, or transportation, or what have you. What is the expected cost if the project is in design, or what is the actual cost if the project is in construction? Whether the project actually is in the scoping phase, design phase, bidding phase, or where does that project stand in that sequence? Then a simple indicator as to whether the project is meeting its schedule and cost targets. And then a column or area where we address and show the milestone or update what's needed for the stakeholders to know what's coming next. Next slide, please. This is an AI-generated sample of what a dashboard might look like. The actual dashboard that we're working on, it's twofold. It'll be in a spreadsheet form that we can post to the website, but also in a graphical form that's supported by GIS, where you can go on and click onto the map. Each type of project in each category to have a different type of symbology. So if you're looking for a municipal facility, you'll click on to that type of symbology and be able to pull up, say, the PACE Center. You'll be able to pull up the PACE Center. It would show under construction and those things about the PACE Center as part of the general project description. Show it on the map. That is going to be backed by our project management software, and we're going to be able to export that information out and update that and post that monthly. And we're looking to have that complete by the end of May. With that, I will take any questions. Thank you.
Board.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wright, for the presentation. You mentioned the retreat several times, and yes, I know we had kind of gone over this, but it's good for the public to also be able to hear some of the projects, some of the things that are going into, moving our projects forward. And I'm very happy to see just that sample of a dashboard. We talked about at our retreat being more not just transparent, but being able to just go find information easily. So I think the dashboard being available on the website is a great feature for the many projects that we have coming up and currently in progress for the city. So that's a great start there in terms of what you plan on doing, and even just a quick look at what a dashboard would look like, but including more information. My only question is, I saw the sportsplex. We didn't get to talk about that much. Is that is that the green? We have the green light on that. And does that include the? I know we talked about an aquatic center before. Is that part of this plan, I see the 93,750,000 estimate here. Is that what that's
So,
for?
so two things. Yes, it is listed in the proposed CIP that you'll see when the city manager does his
Okay.
budget. The phase that we would be in the programming phase, that early scoping phase.
Okay.
And then for those anticipated timelines is when we would need to have additional funds. You'll see those actually listed in the CIP budget as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Wright.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Hugel, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks,
Mr. Wright, could you pull the microphone up so everyone can hear, please?
Mr. Wright, thanks for the brief. I appreciate the information that you're intending to include in the project dashboard. I think all of that information is going to be helpful for us to keep tabs on what's going on, what phase we're in, all of that. So as we're engaging at civic leagues and other places, we can share more details than we've had in the past. And as we talked about, Mr. Manager, at the retreat, if you'll consider including that information in your monthly update as a attachment in the back, or kind of helping us know what's tracking and what's not tracking, that'll all be helpful. On page 4, you shared what goes into CIP cost estimates. So while I appreciate that you shared what goes in, the question that I asked at the retreat was, why is your number different than the school system number for the exact same project? So just last night at the work session, we were presented with the school system CIP list. And again, their numbers and your numbers are not in sync. Their numbers are all smaller than your numbers. And so I would ask, Mr. Manager, when you meet with Dr. Bracy, if we can figure out how to get all of our numbers in sync so that we're all tracking to the same numbers on the CIP stuff, so we don't fool ourselves into thinking we got enough money to get stuff done when in fact their estimates are lower than our estimates.
We use our estimate.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I'd like that. I'd like
can-
all of us to agree on what the number is, and seems like that ought to be easy enough. We're all working to the same goal.
With permission from them.
Vice Mayor Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Just one more thing,
Oh,
Mayor,
okay,
sorry.
okay.
And then on page 5, project terms. So I appreciate that you shared these terms. It's important that we're all speaking the same language. But then I listened carefully to what you said compared to what's on the slide. So the slide says scoping. You said programming, which sounds a whole lot like scoping. And then you went on to say preliminary engineering report, which sounds a whole lot like scoping. So you got 3 descriptors for the same thing. It would be helpful if we,
You're spot on. It's correct.
yeah,
So,
so if we get confused,
Right.
it's because the language we're using is 3 different things describing the same thing. If we can figure out what we want to call that and call it that, then at least I won't be confused.
well, it's intentional because it actually.
You like to confuse us? That's
No,
intentional?
not intentional. There's 3 different, because it's intentional. So, simple scoping, just trying to figure out what a project is. If you're looking at a more complex project, new city hall, programming, that's going to take you to a certain level of design. As part of that process, you may get to maybe 10 or 15% during that programming phase. So it's a little bit of a hybrid. Preliminary engineering report, a lot of times will get you to a 35% design. So it's a hybrid between the two, and I mentioned those just because as I'm up here, as some of my colleagues are up here, giving you that information, they may use those terms just to give you a frame of reference as to what they're talking about. And so all those terms are viable. It just depends on what type of project you're talking about.
Yeah, so I bring this up because you're getting ready to give us a dashboard, and one of the things that you're going to put on the dashboard is what phase are we in? And so it's kind of important that
Right.
we're all describing the phases the same way, so that when you say we're in design, we know that we're past scoping, programming, or preliminary design, and we're into, I guess that's a detailed design, but anyway, my point is, language is important, and if you don't want to confuse
that
me, I
comments-
don't want to be confused is the bottom line.
Not trying to confuse, and that
Yeah.
comment section is part of the dashboard, is where you can capture some of that and provide some additional, excuse me, information. If I may, the question you asked about why our estimates are different from the school board estimates, not just the ones we get from the schools. They're sometimes different from the ones we get from other departments. Just because in our department, we see different things in a bit more of a larger realm. We may get an estimate from, say, general services or properties management that's lower, and so we'll start asking questions. Actually, what does that estimate entail? Have you looked at permitting? Have you looked at all those other things that we talked about? And if they haven't, then those estimates need to be adjusted. And so that's why our numbers are going to be different. A lot of times, just for CIP purposes, they're going out to a vendor and get an estimate from a vendor. Well, a vendor's just going to give you an estimate. He's going to take a look at HVAC and just give you an estimate to replace a unit. And looked at ductwork, and looked at controls, and added other things. Whereas, as we're looking at that, what are they going to take to actually build the project? So your estimate's going to be different, and that's why our estimate's going to be higher.
Okay, I'm tracking with everything you said. At the end of the day, somebody has the trump card
Right.
to say, we're going to single up on, we've looked at this every way to Sunday, and this is our very best guess of what it's going to cost. And the reason that it's important to me is when you present a 5-year plan, it's all got to hang together, and we're going to have to, as we talked about at the retreat, the knobs that we twist to kind of stay inside the debt ceiling for our debt service, the biggest knob we have to move is timing. And if we convince ourselves we're going to do something for $85 million, when in fact our very best guess is $100 million, then we're not, we don't have the best information to time the thing in the plan. So we're all one team, one fight. We ought to be able to agree on what our very best number is and put that down on the paper. Thank you.
Mr. Carter, sir, you have the floor, and then Vice Mayor Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things for Councilman Hugel. When Mr. Wright and his team provide that information, that becomes our source number for internally. Now, we still have to kind of work out this with the school system for their source number, but that becomes our source number because we're gonna always look at the worst case scenario type when we're preparing for this. Now, when we do these exercises and we go through the scoping and we go through the programming, if we come out with a better number, that's great. But what we want to do is make sure that we prepare just in case that doesn't happen. And the other thing on the terms, what we will do is we just listed the terms on this particular presentation. However, when we put it on the website, we'll get definitions with them also, so that when you see the term, you know what the definition is. And Mr. Wright also alluded to, there are going to be a remarks in the comment section to kind of give you, it won't just be a picture and a word, it'll be some narrative about what's actually happening with that project. So I think we'll be able to encompass what you're talking about, so everybody is moving along on the same road.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation, Mr. Wright. Got a couple of questions on the requirements for the lead and copper compliance, and also the dam upgrades, which are unfunded mandates. Are we on the clock for that? What's the drop dead time that has to be fulfilled?
I'll have to confirm for you for the lead and copper rule for replacement. I think it's a 2032. We've done the initial inventory. We're getting ready to do the sampling plan so we can come up with our replacement plan and schedule. And for the dam upgrades, we're currently tracking right now and looking at all available funding sources to help us get through both of those mandates.
So the deadline on both is 2032?
I'll have to look at the one for the dams. I think the dams, I don't necessarily know if there's a deadline. I think it's reasonable progress. Right now, we're in the PER phase, preliminary engineering reports. We're checking certain boxes as we communicate with the regulatory folks, and right now, we're on track.
Okay. And refresh my memory on what this lead and copper rule compliance consists of.
So there's a mandate for service lines, specifically for the I think it's hospitals, childcare, and things like that. There's one more in that category, but it's can't have any basically lead or galvanized service lines.
Now, is
you
this
have to.
municipal?
No, it's every
operated
it's
as-
every line within the city. So everybody that gets water from the city have to have an evaluation or an estimation of what that might be. We basically go through, do records research, go through all the data and make a determination about looking at age, service records, and all those things to come up with your initial inventory. And we think we have this many potential or this many unknowns. Where we are now is we're doing a sampling plan. So what's that sampling size? I think it's 2,000 samples, and you have to sample on the public side of the meter and on the private side of the meter. So that's two samples for each location. So that's why it's 2,000 samples.
So we're in the process of doing the sampling?
Doing that piece, and we're going to feed that information into a machine learning model to basically tell us what we think we have as far as number of potential lead service lines or galvanized service lines in the city. And based on that, we'll develop a replacement program to go through and address those infrastructures. So there's funding available for the phases up to the initial inventory. For the sampling phase, we haven't been able to identify any funding. For the replacement phase, there's funding available. For the work on the private side, we're working through National League of Cities to set up a program so that we can, because we're not allowed to just go into private property. So to set up a program so we can address those lines on private property, because we're responsible basically from the main all the way up to the foundation of the house for replacing that service line, whether it's lead or galvanized.
So that's entirely different from our normally maintenance rule on our sewer lines and water lines.
Yeah, we typically stop at the property line.
Yeah. So right now, are we doing the self-analysis or somebody else making that determination whether it passes?
So we have a team, it includes a consultant, but it's mostly with the public utility staff, so it's their personnel, their operations, and also with some input from the folks out of the treatment plant. And we're providing a support and logistical role for that effort.
So we don't know exactly what that cost will be until we finished sampling?
We have a broad, big number cost, but until we actually get out and do the sampling and refine that a bit, it's just that balloon number based on what we think it might cost, because we have to dig up the road and do other things as we're going through the process. So all those numbers, all that effort is into that large number. That's why that number is so large. But once we do the sampling, we'll be able to refine that number a bit.
And what's our goal for finishing the sampling and the analysis?
And we have to finish the sampling either by the end of this year or spring of next year, and then it's on to the replacement plan.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Dotson, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. And to follow that, Mr. Moody's comment there, hopefully we are coordinating with road maintenance to make sure we're not going to dig up roads right after they replace them, too. Because I'm concerned that the plans may not overlap.
You may not be able to do that just for this, just because of the mandate that you have. And so you'll try to coordinate that as best as possible, but some of it right now, because you don't have the sampling plan in place.
Yeah. I'm just wondering whether we should sample those roads first that they
Well,
are planning on.
So you're not digging basically into the road. Typically, we're going to try to avoid digging in the road just for the sampling plan. And for that, it's just a patch, not a, whatever, we're not going to be 200 holes down the same road. It has to be targeted within a neighborhood. So one neighborhood might get, say, 15 samples, another might get a number of, to get to that 2,000 number. So
Right.
it's not all digging in the same place.
Right. Also, since we first made this presentation, page number 8, there, I still have trouble integrating this information into the priority, and I'm thinking that it's more based on timing that it is priority, but I feel like I want to make sure that we integrate with the schools properly, and I look at it and go, well, is Sportsplex before the K-8 in the new middle, and is that the right priority, or is it on this sheet this way just because of timing? So I'm trying to understand, this sheet seems to cover a 2-axis matrix, and I'm not able to digest that well.
Well, they're not listed in any particular priority or order. What they're just listed as to show you what those major projects are, what the magnitude is, and what the potential timeframes are based on this initial look for the proposed CIP. You won't actually see the breakout in some of that until you have the CIP document in your hand.
And that's been coordinated with finance so that we understand that curve we were talking about, trying to stay under our credit line.
Correct.
Up there too. I'd love some way to integrate this better into my mind so that I could, especially the school board's important.
Right.
And I can't communicate with the chart the way it is. If there's some way to help me better understand it, and I'd love some explanation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Attorney Challenger, you have the floor.
In response to Councilman Moody's,
Is your mic on? Okay, you good. You need to talk.
in response to Councilman Moody's point about the lead and copper, one of the things I wanted to look into was affirmative litigation to help pay for those costs. We've been successful with the opioid litigation, getting remediation costs. We've been successful with PFAS for forever chemicals. So this is something that we want to look and see if we can find funding, because as was mentioned before, this is an unfunded mandate. So this is something that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of weeks to see whether or not we can recover some of these costs as it relates to this.
Mr. Carter, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to all the presenters for this evening. Very informative and great discussion from the council. Our regular meeting tonight has 4 public hearings. One is a project-based Section 8 vouchers at Ansel Apartments by the Norfolk Housing and Redevelopment Authority. We also have our PPEA public hearing this evening. We have a couple of use permits to evaluate. One's on West Craddock and one is in Prentice Place. And finally, we have a couple of grants that we're receiving totaling $4,283,235. Neither one of those grants require matching funds from the city, so those are just dollars that we will have to improve our sewer pump stations and also for behavioral health for crisis intervention team coalition funding. That's it for this evening, Mayor. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, sir. And I want to thank everyone for joining us for this public work session. At this time, with no other business to conduct, this meeting is adjourned. We will start up our regular council meeting at 7:05.